Of this show, joined by Hall of Fame columnist and writer John McClain, Sitcom 365 Radio, 365 Sports. John, how nervous were you when you threw out, or leading up to throwing out the first pitch last week?
I was nervous, and one of the reasons I was nervous because the first time I went to an Astros game was their first season in 1962. My mom and dad took my brother and I down to Old Colt Stadium, which is now part of the parking lot in NRG. And I watched the first pitch being thrown out when I was 9 years old. And I didn't understand it, but I thought it'd be pretty cool. And I asked my dad, can I throw out the first pitch? And he laughed and said, no. And so I always wondered. And so every year I've been to Astros games beginning in 1962. And I've always been fascinated, like, how some of them, you know why they pick a person. But when they asked me about a month ago, I started getting real nervous because I have a torn rotator cuff in my right shoulder, and I can't throw from a normal angle. So I started working out with my friend Lester Zed, another friend, my wife Carol. She would get out with me, and she stretched my arm on Sunday morning. She stretched my arm in the parking lot, and Shereen Williams and her husband Tom had come down to go to the game, and we went out by home plate about an hour and a half before, and a lot of my friends in the media and with the Astros came by, and I was, are you nervous? Are you nervous? And I told the truth. Yes, I'm nervous because I didn't want to bounce the ball in front of home plate. And my plan was to try to throw it over the catcher's head. They didn't have 6'5" Jason Castro catching me. He had relief pitcher Seth Martinez. And so I walked out to the dirt. And I pitched too quick. I should have taken a minute, and I did it. And the Astros broadcaster Robert Ford called it an eephus pitch, and but it hit the dirt. And from my angle, I thought it hit the dirt like in front of the batter's box, but it turned out, as I was seeing so many friends tweeting from different angles, it actually hit the dirt in the batter's box. And I wanted to tell Seth Martinez, if you were a real catcher, you would have reached over there and caught it. But, of course, I didn't. And I was glad when it was over because my knees were knocking and my stomach, I had butterflies. But it was an extraordinary experience. And I wanted to thank the Astros for giving me that opportunity because thinking about it since 1962 and then that dream actually coming true, I told everybody I was the opener for Justin Verlander. And Verlander and I did not allow an earned run. And I helped him get his 8th win, most in Major League Baseball, and break the Astros 3.5 game losing streak. They should have called me last night to go to Arlington and relieve the Christian Javier because their bullpen was awful.
Yeah, John, you were no Baba Booey. You were no 50 Cent.
Yeah.
I mean, you were way better than all those guys. So very proud of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Yeah, by the way, John, I just saw this stat that the Astros catchers combined have the worst OPS since the 1907 Boston Americans. That's the only bad thing that's really going on for them right now, right?
They can't hit. Martin Maldonado has been on a tear, and he's up to like 123. Jason Castro has been an embarrassment at the plate. When the trading deadline comes, they need to find a catcher who can hit 200. Which they've been able to do in the past, but they're almost automatic outs, especially Castro. And they have a catcher at their AAA team here, the Space Cowboys, Corey Lee, but they're not ready to bring him up because of handling pitchers. But right now, the Astros are lucky they're in this division. Mm-hmm. Even though the Rangers are better than we all thought they'd be, the Mariners have been a huge disappointment. So have the Angels. And the Astros have Alex Bregman hitting like 220. Yuli Gurriel led the American League last year. He's hitting like 220. Only Yordan Alvarez and rookie Jeremy Pena are hitting, and they just sent Pena back from Arlington to Houston because he has an injury they want the doctors to check out, and that will be a huge blow if he's out a while.
John, Craig had a note during Off the Radar earlier, about an hour ago, about the Bruce Smith venom towards Tony Baselli and some sort of a pep squad that was trying to set him up. He's in the Hall of Fame now, Baselli. Have you read any of that?
Yeah, I read it, and what he claimed was never brought up in our meeting. He claimed that a big part of Boselli getting in the Hall of Fame was having a good game against Smith, and Smith listed all these tackles that were better than Boselli. And what he said, and I think I'm going to tweet this tomorrow, everything he said was in our meeting. Nothing was ever said in our meeting. I checked with some of the other voters, so I don't know where he got his information. It was bogus. And Tony Boselli, for about a 5-year period, was as good as any left tackle ever played. And I don't know what in the world, what kind of burr Bruce Smith got under his saddle. But you talk about classless, it is classless.
Yeah, and he went on, and not only that, John, but he talked about, the cordial nature of being a Hall of Fame member and all that, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, but the whole time you're blasting a fellow Hall of Fame member, so it was very odd, and I'm curious to know kind of what set that off.
Well, Boselli is a very classy guy, and I thought Bruce Smith was. He's taking a high road, of course, but you know what he'd like to say,
sure,
but he's not, because he has waited for years to get in, and when we started putting in players with short careers like Terrell Davis, who was finally in because he was as good a playoff running back as there's ever been. Gail Sayers, Doak Walker, Dwight Stevenson. There's a lot of guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who had short careers. The key is when they had that career, where did they rank in the pantheon of players at that position? And Tony Boselli, because I've talked to so many people about him that played against him, said he was as good as there was during that period in which he was healthy.
John, Deshaun Watson, keeps having to do press availabilities, which I'm sure the Browns and he wish he didn't have to, because it doesn't seem to, it's not going to make it any better for him. Does anybody have any idea what the NFL is going to do, or what do you think the NFL should do about Deshaun Watson and this ever-growing number of accusers?
Nobody has a clue. Most people I know now think he'll be done for the season. And Tony Busby represents the plaintiffs, hinted today that more lawsuits would be coming. He's told us for over a year that he has vetted a lot of women who claimed they were assaulted by Watson during massage sessions, but he didn't think they had credibility. New York Times said it was 66 over a 17-month period, and he was asked about that today, and he kind of dodged it because in his initial news conference when he was traded there, he was said, why did you need more than 40? And he said, well, it was over a 5-year period. It was not that many. Well, we knew it wasn't over a 5-year period. So I think the Browns, they didn't care what happened. They never talked to any of the plaintiffs. They were only caring about what will happen. And I'm guaranteed at the time of the trade, they're thinking, okay, 4, 6, maybe a max of 8 games. But now every day it's just more and more the same. And as someone who has read every lawsuit multiple times, every woman tells a similar story. And there's a segment out there that thinks that they're making it up, that they've been coached by Tony Busby. They're out to get easy money from Watson. But when more and more keep telling a similar story, it's hard to believe that, as he claims, he didn't do anything to anybody, and every one of them is making it up.
John, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, as always.
Thank you, guys. Sick 'em.
That's John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, writer, Hall of Fame voter, and also a Hall of Fame of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame as well. When we come back, Paul Catalina